Hi, Anjay here from mynexttablet.com. Today was an unboxing of the brand new Lenovo Tab 11, this time with a pen. Alright, let's start the unboxing of the Lenovo Tab M11 that should be available in the United States in April, starting at 179 US dollars. In Europe, where I am right now, it's available already starting at 199 euros. And yeah, we start the unboxing video. Inside the box, we've got the tablet first, of course, then the standard paperwork. We also get a USB Type-C to C cable, but there's no charger included. Then we get a pen, which is included at that price, and also tips for the pen if the one you're using inside the pen is broken. And that's it, there's nothing else in the box. And as usual, a couple of days have passed since I shot the first part of this video, and I already watched a bit of Netflix and YouTube. I played with this pen, looked at Chrome, a couple of apps that I've installed. I played PUBG Mobile and run a benchmark, and now I can tell you a bit more about this Lenovo Tab M11. First of all, we've got an 8 megapixel webcam at the front. Then we've got an 11-inch screen, symmetrical black screen bezels. On the back, we've got another 8 megapixel camera. In some countries, this will have 13 megapixel, but in Germany, where I am right now, it has 8 megapixel. We're getting a full metal body here, almost full metal body, which feels quite high-end. The only plastic is when we come towards the screen, the transition from this metal body to the screen, there's a little bit of plastic in between, and that's why the build quality is not as high-end as on an iPad 10, but it's also a lot cheaper than an iPad 10, but it feels a bit higher end than the Samsung Galaxy Tab A9 Plus, which is a direct competitor that I also have here. And yeah, those two are direct competitors. This Lenovo is actually a little bit cheaper. And yeah, let's go further around this tablet. It's 7.15 millimeters thin, so pretty thin, and it weighs 465 grams. On its sides, we have a USB Type-C 2.0 port, so you cannot connect external monitors. Then we've got a standard headphone jack here, which is nice to see. 2 speakers on this side and 2 speakers on this side, and the sound quality is okay. Not outstanding at all, but it's okay. Then we've got a power button here and volume rockers. There's no fingerprint scanner, but you can unlock it using facial recognition. But as is common in this price range, it uses just one webcam for this, and that means that the facial recognition is not very secure. So much about the build quality. There's no connector for a keyboard or so. And oh, there's a micro SD card slot I forgot to mention. It supports cards with up to 1 terabyte, but as far as I'm aware, there's no version with 5G or LTE at the moment. And then there's time to look at the display, which is 11 inches in size. And it has a resolution of 1920 by 1200 pixels, which I always think is fine on 11 inches. The pixel density is not the highest, but it's certainly fine. Viewing angles and other aspects of the screen are pretty good as well. Let me open here Chrome just to see a bit else besides that wallpaper. And yeah, the screen looks fine. Viewing angles and so on are fine. The brightness is actually pretty good. It's relatively bright. I think it should be around 400 nits. And when you look closely, yeah, text and icons look sharp enough. If you hold it very close to your eye, you might see a little bit of pixelation. But if you hold it normally, it's certainly sharp enough. One special feature of this tablet is that it supports 90 Hz. However, it does not have any settings to switch between 60 and 90 Hz. That's why I wondered and installed an app to check it. And yes, as you can see, it does support 90 Hz, so that is quite nice, and it is dynamic, so it will adjust the frequency based on what you are doing. By the way, those 90 Hz are getting more and more common, even in cheaper tablets. The Xiaomi Redmi Pad SE and Samsung Galaxy Tab A9 Plus also support 90 Hz. The Lenovo Tab P11 Gen 2 120 Hz, and the Galaxy Tab S9 FE also 90 Hz. That one is much more expensive. Alright, then let's take a look at the stylus, which again is included, which is very nice to see. There are a couple of tablets in this price range which with a pen, but you have to buy the pen separately in pretty much all cases. Here it is included, which is quite nice to see. It has a battery that's also included, but when you get it the first time, there's a little paper thing you have to take out for it to work. So if you wonder why the pen doesn't work, that's probably why, but then it should be connected automatically. And technically the pen is pretty good. It supports over 4000 pressures of sensitivity. However, when actually writing on this tablet, the pen is not that good. It's okay, it works, but it's not as precise as the Samsung S Pen, Apple Pencil or Microsoft Surface Pen. You can see me writing in Nebo here, which is a notes app that is pre-installed, and it works, but it just doesn't look as precise as on the other pens that I mentioned. The same issue is with the Amazon Fire HD10 2023. It supports USI 2 pens, the same as with the Google Pixel tablet, by the way, and those pens are just not as precise. I'm thinking that's not because of the pens, but my guess is that the digitizing layer or something on this touchscreen is not that precise. But when you compare an S Pen with this one, handwriting just doesn't look as precise. That's a bit disappointing. It still works, but I wouldn't get it if you want a tablet with a great pen for handwriting notes in school or at university or so. It does have some features for the pen pre-installed. You can take a screenshot and cut something out and annotate it, as well as a couple of apps are pre-installed, mostly MyScript Calculator and Nebo. You can also get those in the Google Play Store, and they're pretty nice apps. And yeah, so much about the pen. Let's check out the internal hardware. Inside the Lenovo Tab M11 sits a MediaTek Helio G88 chipset, and we get 4GB or 8GB of RAM and 64GB or 128GB of internal storage. Again, there's probably no 5G version, and I've got the version with 4GB of RAM and 128GB of internal storage. You can see my Geekbench 5 benchmark comparison here, which is very interesting. The graphics performance is actually better than the Samsung Galaxy Tab A8 and Amazon Fire HD10 2023. The last one and this Lenovo costs about the same if you factor in the pens. The CPU performance is a bit better than the Lenovo Tab M10 Plus Gen 3, which we can see as the predecessor, but the graphics performance is a bit weaker. The Samsung Galaxy Tab A9 Plus, which is also a bit more expensive, is better in all these three benchmarks. By the way, it does not have a pen, even though it is more expensive, and it doesn't even support a pen. You can see me playing PUBG Mobile here, and you can play it with HD graphics, which also look nice, but you cannot set it to HDR or higher. And in general, this will be an okay gaming tablet. If you don't need the highest graphics settings, it should be able to play most games, maybe except Fortnite, but most games should run at least with low graphics settings, and less demanding ones with higher ones, of course. Then let's get to its software. The Lenovo Tab M11 is running Android 13, which we will quickly confirm in the settings, and we can see it here, Android 13. And what's very nice about this Lenovo Tab M11 is that it is supposed to get updates until Android 15. So it will get Android 14 and Android 15. At least that's what Lenovo is promising in their press release, which I think we should be able to trust. Security patches it should get until January of 2028, which is even longer. So that's quite interesting, because in the past, these Lenovo tablets usually got one big update, if at all, but that has been it a lot of times. Samsung has been much better, but if Lenovo is keeping up with Android 14 and 15 with this M11, then it will be quite good and similar to Samsung, but updates are concerned, which is certainly nice to see. On top of Android here runs pretty much standard Android. It's basically standard Android. Lenovo has customized some things a little bit. We get the Google Entertainment Space. A lot of Google apps are pre-installed. There are some Lenovo features, for example, Lenovo Freestyle, which lets you connect this tablet as an external display to your Windows laptop or PC, which is quite interesting. Besides those, there are mostly Google apps pre-installed. interestingly, Opera is the standard browser out of the box, but you can change that, of course. Those apps for the pen are pre-installed, and shortcuts to some games and other apps inside the Google Play Store, but those are just shortcuts. They are not installed, so they don't take up storage. Once we go to the settings, we can see a couple of other things. First of all, you have some settings for the pen. You can adjust shortcuts a bit and so on. There's a setting for a physical keyboard. I don't think Lenovo will be selling a keyboard cover, but you can connect keyboards using Bluetooth or USB-C, of course, and then you will be able to use them just fine. Almost all keyboards should be supported. And then when you go to advanced features, you can go to PC mode and turn on a desktop mode, which will be interesting once you connect an external keyboard. I will check that for my final review, of course, but it's nice to see that these cheaper tablets get desktop modes now, the same as with the Samsung Galaxy Tab A9 Plus. And that's mostly it about the software. The rest is pretty standard Android. Alright, this is not a review. To see my final review, you should subscribe to this channel. But my first impressions of the Lenovo Tab M11 are pretty good so far, mostly because we get a 90Hz screen. I like that here I get 128GB of storage for 199 euros. Usually in this price range we get only 64GB, so I like the large storage. I also like that with that price the pen is included, because usually with many manufacturers you have to buy the pen separately and sometimes they are quite expensive. And what I like is that this much storage and the pen are included, and at the same time it's cheaper than the Samsung Galaxy Tab A9 Plus, which is a direct competitor also with 90Hz. That one doesn't support a pen. That one has only 64GB at a higher price, and that's quite interesting. On the plus side for Samsung is that its performance is a bit better, as you've seen in the benchmarks earlier. But my first impressions of the Lenovo Tab M11 are pretty good. Now I will start my proper review, do a battery test, really use it as my daily tablet, watch more Netflix of course, and play more games, and then you will hear back from me in a couple of weeks. If you're interested in the biggest competitor of the Lenovo Tab M11, then check out my review of the Samsung Galaxy Tab A9 Plus. It's a bit more expensive, but also more powerful, and it is a very popular tablet from Samsung.